Okay, good afternoon. I'll call the meeting to order, and before I speak regarding the meeting, I just want to inform the public of Councillor Cran, who is not present here tonight. And unfortunately, Councillor Cran and his family lost their daughter-in-law to cancer 4 o'clock Saturday morning. On Friday, this Friday past, Jody and Joshua were married 5 months. And I guess it shows all of us that how precious life really is. And tonight, Councillor Cran, I'm not sure if you're listening, but to you and to your family and to Jody's family, that our council and staff, our thoughts and prayers are with you and will be with you, and as you begin, the healing part. So I just want to mention that so the public would know. And again, Councillor Cran, from all of us, our heartfelt sympathy and our prayers are with you. The meeting tonight is being held to continue the completion of the agenda with amendments and business of the last regular council meeting held on January 26, 2021. And a call for adoption of the agenda of the 79th meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by...
Your Worship, I'd like to add an item to the agenda. I'm not sure if it's that after the seconder or...
It'll be after, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bakey. While this is a new meeting, as I said, it's to complete the business of the last meeting. So all in favor of the agenda? I'm sorry. I do believe that we need. Yes, I'm sorry that you.
Yes, I'd like to add an item to the agenda, please, under other business, following the approval of checks.
Okay. So noted, and you can bring that forward at the appropriate time. With that being said, I call for the adoption of the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried, unanimous. We finished off the meeting last time with municipal services, and we'll move on to the election. But before I do that, I'll say that when the meeting ended, there was some controversy, and later on we will, I think, we will show the people that when Councillor Copenhagen was bringing forward a motion that cooler heads did prevail, and we went back and we I don't know what you want to call it, revamped or settled down. So there'll be a motion coming forward that will offset everything that happened at the meeting last week. So with that, I would move on now to Community Service and Recreation and Councillor Copenhagen.
Community Service and Recreation Committee met on January 11th. Present was myself, Councillor Michelle Bakey, Councillor Laurie Dyson, Public Relations Manager Waylon Williams, Program Coordinator Ann Morris, Acting Town Manager Nadine McCauley, Executive Assistant Kathy Eddy, and Campaign Manager Michelle Northover. So the meeting was called to order at 12:06, and then Michelle Northover gave us an update on the capital campaign, and I'm happy to say that we received another $100,000 yesterday. So it's great news. We're slowly moving ahead, but we're getting there. Michelle Northover is doing some great work. She did advise us that Phelan Thomas will not be returning from her maternity leave, and Michelle Northover will continue on as a campaign capital manager. We talked about the outdoor rink. I went over this afternoon and have a look at the outdoor loop at Husky Park. The ice is coming along. So I say stay tuned for the details. We're looking at having it open on Sunday. This Sunday coming 1 to 4. We're going to do a trial basis next week. Of course, we have to follow COVID regulations, so we'll have some signs up and how many people's permitted under and so on. Skate one way, all these rules. But stay tuned, there'll be a public service announcement put out by our public relations manager in the next couple days on the outdoor loop. Happy to see that up and running again this year. Kinsman Park is still well used, lots of positive comments from it, great to see. I see lots of people over their lunchtime and all through the day and in the evening, so it's, that was a great step forward for Kinsman Park, and only hope to see it even improve even more in the future. We still have some lights left up there, people are enjoying that, so that's nice to see. We had a conversation about the tree lighting. We usually have the annual tree lighting in front of the town hall. Now that Kinsman Park is such a big hit, we discussed possibly moving the tree lighting to Kinsman Park. And so we're looking at now some Christmas trees that we could possibly put up over there that would make this a huge event next year. So stay tuned for that as well. Unfortunately, we won't be able to have a winter carnival again this year due to COVID, but we will be running some contests. We have a snow sculpture contest. We'll stay tuned for the details on that we're hoping to get out this week as well. We put a call out to the schools, and grade 4 came up with a theme of boil up. So the snow sculpture contest theme for this year will be boil up. So stay tuned for the details on that. There'll be lots of good prizes. We'll also have a coloring contest for children, and we'll have a scavenger hunt, similar to what we did last year, and maybe a couple other things we'll add in as we get closer to March the 7th. That week we'll host some of these events, and encourage everybody to get out and get involved, especially with the snow sculpture. You can win some great prizes, and build a sculpture in your yard around boil up theme, and you never know, you could luck into a nice prize. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, February 8th, and at 12 noon. I also want to mention too the Good Deed Cup that the Lake Melville Minor Hockey Association is organizing. They're getting lots of support, lots of tweets from different people, NHL and others around the country. So good to see. The proceeds that, if they do win the Good Deed Cup, the proceeds would be going to the housing hub for food donations, and there's lots of hockey players, 13 years old, 13 years old, that are involved, that are doing some volunteer work in the community, is well promoted. And hats off to the organizers, Roxanne Dyson and Cheryl Coburn and Mallory Green, or maybe a couple others that I didn't mention, but forgive me if I missed your name. But it's great to see, and there's lots of positive traction, and hopefully they win. So if you see it, share it around so we can do some promoting for them. Hats off to that group for taking that on. And like I said, our next meeting is February 8th at 12 noon. I ask that my report please be accepted as presented.
I second that.
It's been moved by Councillor Compton Hobbs, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Are there any questions for Councillor Compton Hobbs?
No, just a comment. I too have gotten a lot of, as for everybody, on the very positive response on Kinsman Park. It was a great job done over there. And the lights, I'm assuming, will stay up, the Christmas lights, or is there plans, Councillor, for change those or leave them the way they are?
I believe that the CSR department are taking down some of the bigger, like the train on the fence and things like that, but they're keeping the majority of the lights up.
Yeah.
And now that you said that about Kinsman Park, I forgot to mention too that it was a great honor to honor our councillor Joe Tremlett. We gathered over there a couple of weeks ago, and we put up a sign in honor of Joe. Joe was with us, and it was a great day, and he was very proud. His family were proud. We put up a sign, Joe's Way, because Joe advocated strong for the gate between the hospital and Kinsman Park. He was a member of the long-term care committee over there, Helping Hands, and he really advocated to have this gate put in so that the senior citizens could come through that gate and join into the walking track around Kinsman Park. And we're hoping to have that walking track paved in the future. So, you know, it was, hats off to Joe for doing that, and, you know, he certainly advocated, and it's well-deserved, and, we were happy to recognize him. The council was there with him and his family, and it was a great day, and he was very pleased with it, and we were very pleased, you know, to be able to honor Joe. So you'll see a sign over there on the Kinsman Park fence called Joe's Way. Stop over and have a look, and I'm sure every time you go by there, Joe will pop right in your mind, Joe's Way.
Okay, there's no question that, you know, we were thrilled to have Joe over there, and Joe's Way. It'll be remembered down through the years. Also, too, Kinsman Park, a lot of people have asked, telling me about Kinsman Park and about the lights and so on. And, you know, it is very romantic, and if there's anyone out there that's thinking about tying the knot, just remember that the mayor has the power to marry people, and if you want to get married under the Christmas lights at Kinsman Park, then that can be arranged. But
And Valentine's Day is coming up, people.
So, are there any further questions or comments for Councillor Compton Hobbs? If not, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye, carried unanimous. And you do not have any recommendations?
No, Your Worship.
Okay. We'll move on next to Development and Planning. Councillor Pomeroy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Development Planning and Enforcement Committee met on January the 14th. Present were myself as chair, Councillor Dyson Edmonds, Director of Financial Operations and Acting Co-Town Manager Nadine McCauley, Municipal Technicians Brian Johnson and DJ Elliott, GIS Tech Paul Zhao, Municipal Enforcement Officer Larry Baker, Public Relations and Special Events Manager Waylon Williams, and Executive Assistant Kathy Eddy. Regrets from Councillor Compton Hobbs and Engineer and Co-Town Manager Randy Dillon. The meeting was called to order at 4:48 p.m. We reviewed the minutes and action items from the previous committee meeting, and there were no errors or omissions. We discussed a number of Crown Land referrals and discretionary use applications. Based on those discussions, I'll put forward a number of motions very soon. One of the motions, Your Worship, was presented during a meeting of Council on November the 19th and was defeated. It was an application from Mr. Irwin Ponce, who hopes to establish a home-based business from his residence at 71 McDonald Drive. It was brought to the committee's attention by staff that Council may not have had all the facts or misinterpreted the information or made assumptions when making its decision at the time. Contrary to what was raised during our November 19th meeting, Mr. Ponce has since maintained to staff that he did not apply to prepare any food items from his residence. He applied to sell Asian spices and dry goods online to be delivered directly to buyers. Mr. Ponce contacted the town after listening to the audio of the November meeting. He advised that he felt the application was misinterpreted, and the municipal technologist reviewed the application and agreed it should come forward again. Committee discussed the matter again and agreed to bring the recommendation forward at this meeting for Council's consideration. There was also some considerable discussion on a referral for a parcel of Crown land directly behind 8 Diefenbaker Street. There were concerns that Council would be setting a precedent by allowing expansion of private properties in the area. As well, the committee was of the understanding that the applicant wanted to acquire the land to build a large shed or a warehouse, or I believe that was the understanding, Councillor Dyson Edmonds, during our meeting. Whatever the intended use, the application was for Crown land, not to build an accessory building. As with all applications, Council has to vote based on the information that's provided. The decision to refuse an application cannot be made at a committee meeting. The committee recommended not to support the application, suggested the area be designated as a green space. Again, there was some confusion as to whether or not others in the area were granted Crown land in the past, and understand in speaking with staff that similar referrals were indeed approved in that area in the past year. In any event, Council will decide whether or not to support the application. With respect to enforcement, the manager's report was presented to the committee for review. Municipal Enforcement Officer advised that he has been receiving regular complaints of tractor trailers on residential streets and that he would continue to monitor the situation. He asked committee to consider looking at permitting, weight restrictions, and implementing a policy to deal with this matter. Municipal Enforcement Officer also advised the committee that he's looking into participating in Indigenous cultural awareness training and would report back once arrangements have been made. He also outlined a number of goals he hopes to achieve during the year, including paying more attention to enforcing municipal regulations, as well as dealing more aggressively with derelict properties, etc. A copy of the complaints report, as well as the monthly animal control report and the RCMP report to the mayor, is available in council's packages. On another note, veterinarian Rebecca Jackson was invited to the meeting at the request of the municipal enforcement officer to discuss the use of the town's CO2 chamber for euthanizing dogs. With the ongoing relationship between the town and the vet clinic and the SPCA, and on the advice that was presented, the committee is suggesting a motion be brought forward to discontinue the use of the CO2 chamber. There being no further business, the meeting adjourned at 6:52 p.m. The next scheduled meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 11th at 4:45 p.m. With that, your worship, I move that the committee's report be accepted as read.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Dyson-Edmonds. Are there any discussions?
I just want to make note that I sent regrets to that meeting. I don't miss any meetings, but that night I'm also co-chair to Mokomi Status Women Council, and we had our AGM the same night, so that was why I wasn't at the meeting. Just wanted to put that, note that.
Okay,
I did read all the correspondence, the package or whatever, so I'm familiar with what's coming forward.
I'll talk about it when the Deputy Mayor, when the question rises, but with regard to 8 Diefenbaker, I can assure you that the gentleman, he's not building no garage there. And, you know, in the past year, we've granted 3 or 4 Crown Lands applications up there. The piece of land that you're talking about, there's no easement, there's no access, none whatsoever. There's no access to the land. There was no old playground. That's now been long gone. But I can tell you that there is no easement there, and our staff can speak to that. And it was only a few months ago that we approved the Crown Land application from on the other side of the vacant land there for a person I think was on Abbott Street. So anyway, we'll have that discussion when it comes up. Are there any other further questions for Councillor Pomeroy? There being none, all in favour of his report?
Aye.
Carried, and carried unanimous, and you do have recommendations to bring forward.
Yes, your worship. Committee reviewed the Crown Lands application referral from Miss Louise Bessie, who hopes to acquire a parcel of land adjacent to her property at 5 Megan Street. It should be noted that the land being applied for currently has a shed and a single garage on it. Also, there's a water main that runs right through this property. Upon review by staff, I move that council support the committee's recommendation to object the application referral based on the fact that a town water main runs right through the property and that the town has no record of any permits regarding the existing development on that property.
I'll second that.
It's been seconded by Councillor Dyson-Edmonds. Are there any questions? We run across this quite often up in MOT. I think there was a house there some time ago when, for some reason, that everything had gone through the right procedures, only to find out that when the person went to sell the land again, after that house was sold 3 or 4 times, that it came up that our water main runs right underneath that house, and that would have been on the corner, I think, of Abbott
Saint Laurent?
and Saint Laurent, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And,
But I
and with,
mean,
with this
it
one,
is an ongoing situation there,
Yeah.
and this is not the first time that we've come across a parcel of land where, you know, and really, obviously, if this was detected earlier, then the house should not have been sold in the first place.
yeah,
or
and
purchased.
there's no issue with the main property itself. It's the land that's being applied for, has the water main through it, and actually goes right through the structure that's on that piece of Crown land now. So, it's certainly not compliant, and certainly nothing that was permitted from any records that the town had. and the very fact that our water main goes through there can present some major issues down the road, so committee recommending not to approve.
But again, if you go back to, like, and I'm not saying we approve, but, you know, I don't know if you want to defer it, and if we could go back and look at, other properties here that, we dealt with the same thing now. There was some compromise, I think, between council and the person who owned the land, that I think they would sign some sort of affidavit that if there was a problem with the water line, that, you know, but whatever it was, it was worked out between, the person and the town, so,
I'll just refer, Your Worship, there was a letter attached to, for information that came from the Superintendent of Public Works
okay,
that confirmed that the water line is a water line that's currently being maintained by the town. In the past, I believe we may have had water mains that were not being utilized, and they would have been on property that would have been privately owned. In this case, it's Crown land. It's not even, it's owned by the Crown, and it's a water main that's currently in use.
okay.
So it's a little different than some of the ones we've
All
had.
right, okay. All right, okay, so, the recommendation is to, deny, so, all in favor of the motion put forward?
Aye.
Aye. Carried, unanimous.
Committee received the Crown Lands referral application from Mr. Carl Ofert, who hopes to acquire a parcel of land on GL2 for the purpose of establishing a seasonal recreational cottage. Straightforward application, Your Worship. No issues were identified. Therefore, I move that council support the committee's recommendation to have no objection for the Crown Lands application on the condition that the use be in compliance with all the town's development regulations.
It's been moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by
A second.
Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Are there any questions? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried, unanimous.
The next recommendation, Your Worship, involves the Crown Land application for 8 Diefenbaker Street. As noted previously, we had a lengthy discussion on this, and there were questions around whether or not other properties owners in the area had similar applications approved in the past, or whether or not council would be setting a precedent by agreeing with the applications. While the committee is recommending the area in question be designated as a green space, that is a long process, and it's important that council be fully informed before making any final decisions. In any event, I move that council object to the Crown Lands application as laid out by the committee, as the intent is to designate area as a green space.
I'll
I'll
second.
second that.
It's been moved.
So now we can have the discussion.
Any discussion?
I think it's important that we protect all green spaces, so I think this is a good decision on behalf of the council.
The only information that came after the fact was brought to my attention by our municipal tech, who indicated that we had approved similar applications there in the past, even as recently as this past fall. During the discussion at the committee level, there was concern that, and how it got raised, there was some concern about a previous application that someone had applied for and put up a giant warehouse or shed on that property. And somewhere along the way, maybe some confusion, certainly in my mind, I was of the understanding that that was the intent for there. And I understand now that's not the case, and that was an example that was brought up from somewhere else in town. So if we're going to keep in line with what we've done in terms of past practice, the land in question has a subsidiary building on it, which is basically a shed. From what I understand as well, there are a number of properties that jut out into that area that have sheds built on the Crown land area. So anybody that's at some point wanted to dispose of their property, we're going to have probably a bigger issue on our hands then, as opposed to fixing the problem now, because they'll definitely be back, and then it'll be Crown lands either imposing it upon us or people will have to be required to tear those sheds down. And there's a number up there, and it's historical because it's land that hasn't been able to be accessed except for the people that live adjacent to it. Nobody else can access it, but they're going through somebody's yard.
My concern there is that, you know, if we start, okaying all of these extensions of pieces of land, whether it's in MOT or Spruce Park or in the valley, then we're gonna even cause more problems because everybody is going to think that they can just extend their land back to an area. And I got a problem with that, especially in light of the fact that we do want to, maintain a commitment to, enhancing green spaces. So I think setting that type of a precedent is much better than accepting extensions of pieces of land.
And as we know, the question recently came up with the same question behind Kellen Drive, Lyle and McLean, so we wanna be, if it's past practice, we wanna be careful how we move forward on these requests.
And I guess the only way, and town engineer could probably weigh in here as well, maybe it's in the best interest of the town to acquire that crown land.
Well, I think that would be pretty difficult to do because, you know, there's no easement. Why would the town go out there and acquire a parcel of land where you have no access? Because if anyone minded to go up there, it's almost like a circle. And Diefenbaker and Megan and the other streets there, they go right around. There's no access to the land for anyone. There's no easement. There's none whatsoever. There's no easement. And, you know, all, you want to talk about green spaces, I guess people are going to do is make a nice backyard. You know, there's no room in there for any kind of housing development, not even for a playground. The town took it out. And here we are, what we've done, we approved a piece of property a year and a half ago, just on the next street, that we approved it, and it runs by 4 properties, along 4 properties. And again, just a few months ago, we approved a piece of land where someone went out and applied for crown land on the same piece of property. There was no objection whatsoever. And again, to my, you know, who knows? I mean, my daughter owns a place. I might be looking for a piece of land, you know. But then again, but at the same time, you know, I can't see us turning down this gentleman who wants to go out there and extend his yard out on a piece of land that there's no easement, no one has any access to it, and we approved crown lands up there a number of times. So, you know,
We need to be consistent, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We need to be
haven't been.
consistent,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
We had the same issue come up with a property in Spruce Park, and we turned that down as well because we didn't want to set a precedent of people owning pieces of land behind other people's lots.
Behind other people's lots, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you look at the map here, we're clearly the land he's applying for, there are 2 buildings on that land now. And I don't know Mr. Dawes' situation to understand that semi-retired or something, or I don't know.
I won't give him,
Yeah.
you know, Mr. Dawes.
So I'm not sure what his intended use is.
I won't discuss it.
Maybe it'll be a
publicly.
discussion that he can have with the department.
Yeah.
You know,
So we did, just for the record, we did approve other lots in that area. They may not be necessarily shown on this map according to municipal tech, so.
and at the same time, I'm not saying here tonight that we approve, but I think we should, you know, I think we should defer it and have our staff go back and ask them, where is the easement on here? where is the, you know, how can can anyone else access this land? Because I can tell you they can't. It's like a circle, and there's houses all around it, and, you know, so.
It
there's
doesn't seem right if we approve some and deny this one. I mean, I agree, we maybe should amend the motion to defer
Or approve, whatever, or just vote it down. and
Or
it
approve
passes
it.
anyway.
because I wasn't aware that there was other areas
Yeah.
up there in that exact same location that was approved, so we gotta be consistent.
Yeah,
Maybe we can get the municipal tech to give us a more visual,
and not only there, like all along different areas, like
Like-
in Hamilton Heights or. in
I know
Field.
people can't say, but for council, like here, this is the piece of land, and there's houses all around here, so this gentleman lives here,
Yeah.
and only 2.5 months ago, we approved the piece of land over
On
here,
the other side, yeah.
Yeah, on Diefenbaker?
on the other street.
Ah.
but
On the other
yeah.
street behind it,
But,
yes, yeah.
Megan, I think it was.
Council Cottonmouth, this would be Diefenbaker.
Yeah.
This is Megan.
Yeah.
And this is Abbott. and
Right.
so on, but-
Yeah,
And again, like, all I can say that there's no access. No one got any access. The town doesn't have any access to this, and there's no one, I can, I think all he wants here is to extend his.
My understanding, talking to a municipal technologist, was that he had expressed an interest of extending his land, so he didn't have to be, like, the land is no use to anybody. So he didn't have to go and have to move a shed or tear his shed down. We want to be compliant. In order to be compliant, he has to have title to the land.
so the sheds
It's
belong
on
to
Crown
him.
land, yes.
so you're recommending that we object it, but we can,
Well,
we
that was
can
the
amend,
discussion at the committee level.
we can amend that to approve it though,
Well, you
right?
can certainly make a friendly amendment to approve, and then
So
if I agree, then it goes ahead,
I
right?
did say earlier about green spaces, but if there's no access from anywhere else, I would like to make a friendly amendment to the motion to approve the 8 Diefenbaker extension, if it's not impacting anything else, which is not, from what we just heard. There's no other access.
Yeah, I have no
And
problem
I
with
agree
that.
with that.
I'd second it.
And I mean, our staff did, when I asked them, they did, and they said that there's no access, there's no easement, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'd
I'm
sec-
okay with that.
So the motion to amend, Counselor, would be, I could certainly make that motion, or,
I made the motion to amend, revise your motion.
yeah,
To approve the motion to the extension to 8 Diefenbaker, and Councillor Bakey seconded.
okay, sounds good to me.
All right, so the motion has been amended to read approval of the application. All in favor?
I,
Aye, carry unanimous.
Okay, we received a discretionary land use application from Miss Shelley Cleary to operate a home-based business at her residence located at 3 Blake Drive, under the names Black Spruce Company. The applicant hopes to manufacture handcrafted soaps and skincare products, as well as handmade crafts, all-natural dog treats, and baked goods and preserves. This is in line with other home-based businesses that have been approved in the past. I move that council accept the committee's recommendation to support and approve the application with the following conditions: that a fire and life safety inspection as per NFPA 101 be satisfactorily completed at the applicant's cost, that the applicant provides an application for a change of use at the applicant's cost, that the use be in compliance with all the town's development regulations with special reference to section 54, and that the applicant obtain all required approvals from Service NL or any government agencies having jurisdiction.
I move, second it.
It's been moved by Councillor Palmer, seconded by Councillor Bakey. Are there any questions or objections to the motion put forward? There being none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye, carry unanimous.
The next recommendation, which I mentioned earlier, Your Worship, involves the discretionary land use application for Mr. Irwin Ponce that was rejected by council in November. As noted earlier, council may have misunderstood the intended use of the proposed home-based business at 71 McDonald Drive. The applicant made it quite clear to staff that he does not intend to prepare food at that area, but rather sell Asian spices and dry goods online that would be delivered directly to the distributed to buyers.
I'd second it.
There was much discussion at the committee level on this application, but in the end, the final decision rests with council. Therefore, based on the information provided, and the Mun Tech can certainly speak to this, although he's not here, but maybe the town engineer, I move that council approve the application from Mr. Irwin Ponce with the following conditions: that a fire life safety inspection as per NFPA 101 be satisfactorily completed at the applicant's cost, that the applicant provide an application for change of use at the applicant's cost, that the business be in compliance with all the town's development regulations, with special reference to section 54.
Been moved by Councillor Palmer, seconded by Councillor Bakey. Are there any questions on the motion put forward? So there was some clarification as to what was thought to have been with the previous motion when it was defeated, and to what?
When it was defeated, Your Worship, there was discussion about preparing foods and delivering food from that residence, and that is not the intended case, and certainly not in his application. And he had listened to the council meeting and actually contacted the municipal tech, very concerned and confused because he had no intention. He actually leases a place in town to prepare foods and distribute.
I think there's a miscommunication because there was another application put in prior to that one. So now, I mean, now it's clear that he's selling dry goods online, right? From that residence.
Yeah.
But I believe there's a miscommunication
Yeah, some
amongst
confusion.
everybody because there was a prior application put in a few weeks before that for another.
Yeah, and I did see him one day at the co-op, and he did tell me that with everything he's doing, that he's registered with Revenue Canada, with the food lines and all this stuff, so.
Yeah.
Okay, are there, so the motion has been put forward, are there any comments to, with regard to the motion on the floor? If not, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
carried, unanimous.
The next recommendation needs to be approved in order to move forward with the implementation of the town's new development plan and regulations. So I will read it as it's been prepared by our town planner. Under the authority of Section 23 of the Urban and Rural Planning Act 2000, Town Council of Happy Valley-Goose Bay approves the development regulations 2018 to 2028 for the town of Happy Valley-Goose Bay as adopted on October 27, 2020, and as amended according to the recommendations of the Commissioner's Report dated January 6, 2021 as follows. Changing the reference in the residential low density 2 use zone table for garden suite from 5.14 to 5.64, recommendation number 2. Proofreading to ensure that references are made to the correct section or regulation, recommendation number 3, and edit the table of contents to ensure a consistent font is being used and comparable levels of text, which would be recommendation number 4.
I second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Palmer, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Are there any discussions? I do believe it's all straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay, there being no questions or comments, all in favor of the recommendation?
Aye.
Carried, unanimous.
Final recommendation, Your Worship, which I noted earlier, involves the use of the CO2 chamber for euthanizing dogs located at the town depot. I move that council support the committee's recommendation to remove and discontinue the CO2 chamber from the town depot.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Councillor Palmer, seconded by Councillor Compton Hobbs. Are there any comments on the recommendation put forward?
Just to say, Your Worship, when we met at our committee level, we had a fairly good open discussion on this, and we were advised that the SPCA has a really good working relationship with the Valley Vet Clinic here and with the town, and that people having to euthanize animals at some point will no longer call on the town and will work for the okay, well, we'll have to go back, Your Worship, because just pointed out to me there's another recommendation I need to put forward.
I thought there was two.
But, yeah, those two there?
Yeah.
How come they're not on the other
Okay,
two?
but we'll deal with the one first that you,
Yeah, we'll deal with that one, and we'll go back.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments made on the recommendation put forward?
Just that, we had some discussion, around that, and, I think the public's, has a bit of a misconception that the town is in the practice of destroying, dogs there, and that's something that is not a practice of the town. So basically, it was getting rid of something that wasn't being used anyway.
And the plan is to look at that space that was being used for the CO2 chamber and to look at trying to find some kind of a space to help deal with an ongoing cat problem that we have in the community as well. So it could, eventually, the space could be used to help deal with some problems with cats in our community. Apparently, it's a big issue in some parts of town.
Are there any further questions on the recommendation put forward? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carried, unanimous.
Okay, Your Worship, just to go back in relation to the town's new development plan, I'm not sure if the town clerk, they need to be in a certain sequence, or does it matter at this
I
point?
don't think so.
Okay, I'll just pick up, there's two more recommendations in relation to the town municipal plan, development regulations. The Development Planning and Enforcement Committee recommends that council commence a process to review the revised restrictions as contained in the KGS Group report to determine the impact of the greater restrictions, and if the current municipal plan and development regulations should be amended as per the process set out under the Urban and Rural Planning Act 2000.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Compton Hobbs. Are there any questions? I think it's all pretty well straightforward.
Yes.
Uh,
These are things that are coming, that could
Yes.
come after the plan is adopted, that the town would look at that.
Okay, are there any comments or concerns? There being none, all in favor of the recommendation?
Aye.
Carried, unanimous.
Okay, so, the Development Planning Enforcement Committee recommends, under the authority of Section 23 of the Urban and Rural Planning Act 2000, Town Council of Happy Valley-Goose Bay approves the municipal plan 2018-2028 for the town of Happy Valley-Goose Bay as adopted on October 27, 2020, and as amended according to the recommendations of the Commissioner's report dated January 6, 2021 as follows. I believe I read this one out earlier, but this is an additional one. Edit the table of contents to ensure consistent font is being used on comparable levels of text.
I'll second that.
Been moved by Councillor Palmer, seconded by Councillor Compton Hobbs. Are there any questions? There being none, all in favor of the recommendation?
Aye.
Aye, carried, unanimous.
And that's it for me, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on next to Finance and Administration and Policy.
No.
And
No,
I'm
no.
sorry,
Economic development.
Economic Development, I missed that one, I had to take that off. Sorry, Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Okay, Councillor Dyson Edmonds for Economic Development and Public Engagement.
Thank you. The Economic Development and Public Engagement Committee met on Tuesday, January the 12th. Present was myself, Councillor Compton Hobbs, Acting Town Manager Nadine McCauley, Special Events Manager Waylon Williams, and Director of Community Development Research Brenna Jahar, and the Executive Assistant Kathy Eddy. The meeting was called to order at 12:09. There were no errors or omissions in the minutes. The Public Relations Manager presented his report and noted that social media metrics for December, they were discussed and they were lower, was noted they were lower for the first 2 weeks of December, or no, they weren't included because there was an issue with some of the social media apps. However, he noted the activity was significantly higher than normal. He also said that the same applied to the town's website, which was much increased activity due to employment inquiries, billing inquiries, of course, with the taxes and the Christmas contests, etc. There were a total of 34 PSAs released in December, and the town app, of course, is working well and has proved to be very helpful during COVID-19. He also said that the town YouTube channel has been very successful to date with the live streaming of the council meetings, and that was certainly evident for the meeting last week, and both YouTube and the Facebook at the same time. Brenna's report for community development and research was presented for the committee's review. Of course, her primary focus at the time has been the Rapid Housing Initiative. She has sent a formal invitation signed by the mayor to the Band Council Sheshatshiu regarding a potential community development partnership. She's also said that the invitation is being extended to the Band Council in Natwashish, and she will be providing an update once a meeting has been arranged. Brenna's been working extremely hard. The town has received the invoice for our side of the MyTax program, and we'll be ready to get to work right away upon receiving the formal approval, of course. The application to the RecNL for the COVID-19 emergency support was also successful, and the town will receive a grant of $2,000 for losses in revenue over 2020 with the Sports and Recreation Facilities Program. She also attended her second Housing Coalition meeting with Councillor Compton Hobbs, and a large part of that discussion as well was on the rapid housing application. She had met with Colin O'Brien and Cheryl Colburn from the province to discuss potential funding supports for town initiatives such as the RV park and trail development, and of course the potential bus and housing projects. Brenna's began research and preparation for the newly announced Reaching Home NL rural and remote funding opportunity. And of course the details of eligibility and deadlines were also included in her report. She provided an update on the Rapid Housing Initiative application, and pleased to announce that they have passed all of the protocols and has been sent on to the federal level. So I encourage everybody to put a plug in to all your federal MPs so we can get that on the ball. And that's it for the economic development special events, and I ask that my report be accepted as read.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Councillor Dyson, and seconded by Councillor Compton Hobbs. Are there any comments or questions regarding her report? I think I would just like to echo your sentiments there, Councillor Dyson, that Brenna is doing a lot of work, and one of our new staff members, and working with the rest of the staff, and the work she's doing is, she's making a lot of progress.
I just want to add on, Mayor, I have to agree, because she's also doing some community service recreation funding applications, so she's certainly doing a great job.
Yeah. As well as all of our staff here, we're glad to have them on board. Are there any further questions for Councillor Dyson Edmonds regarding her report? If not, all in favor of the report?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried unanimous. And we'll move on now to Councillor Baker with Finance and Policy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Finance Administration Policy Committee met on January 20th, 2021, and was called to order at 4:54 p.m. Those in attendance was myself as Chair, Deputy Mayor Bert Pomeroy, Councillor Lori Dyson Edmonds, and DFO Nadine McGauley, and Executive Assistant Kathy Eddy. The committee reviewed the December 9th minutes, and there were no errors or omissions. The committee reviewed the proposed impairment policy. It appears to be complete and accurate. It would suggest that the DFO reach out to the City of Corner Brook to compare content and bring back to legal. The Chair suggests that the committee also look at reviewing all of the town's policy. DFO advised that since this would require a lot of time and research, that the committee prioritize which policy need to be reviewed first. In other business items, Council Dyson Edmond asked DFO if it's possible to find $33,000 for Callan Drive from savings and salaries from vacant positions. DFO advises that it would have to come from projects or operation, not wages, and that council will have to make the decision. DFO said she was unsure of the exact figure that is needed for Callan Drive. It would confirm the amount with the engineer. Nadine McGauley gave an update of the supervisor of assessment and taxation. She commented that donations are up to date as of December 31st, 2020. No update on the low-income relief applications. The age receivables were attached and reviewed. DFO gave her department report and stated that we are doing well. Nadine gave her overtime report and noted there were some savings from the previous year. There being no further business, the meeting adjourned at 5:32 p.m. The next meeting is scheduled for February 16, 2021 at 4:45 p.m. I now ask the council to accept this report for record keeping of the town council public meeting dated February 2nd, 2021.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Councillor Bakey, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. Are there any questions regarding the financial report? There being none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Carried, unanimous.
There are no recommendations.
There are no recommendations, okay. From here, we'll move to approval of checks.
Okay, I would like to submit for approval of checks in the amount of $1,946,591.56.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded, however, did you say
$1,946,591.56. That's the update.
You got it.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I understand all right, are there, yes, okay, I do have, I'm sorry. Are there any questions regarding the approval of checks?
Yeah, I got a couple. I gotta pull a Joel Tremblett now and ask for a couple of clarifications. Check number 22871, Brunswick News. Do you know what that is?
That is a career beacon where we do job postings.
Okay, that's what I thought. And 22882, which is Fortran Traffic Systems. Do you know what that is? Streetlights, there's also another one for Bond Guard, and I'm wondering if that's streetlights or street signs as well.
What's that number?
Bond Guard is 022868. Hopefully if they're street signs, they're spelt right this time. Oh, streetlights.
I'll have to look up on card.
All right. But I'm fine with it.
Okay, are there any further questions on the approval of checks? There being no further questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carried, unanimous. I do believe that Councillor Campanelli, you have a motion to bring forward.
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion. I move that council direct the town staff to proceed with reviewing a proposal at a 30-meter contour buffer for all properties behind Lyle and McLean to Court Railroad for the Kellen Drive extension.
I'll second that.
Seconded.
It's been moved by Councillor Campanelli, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. Are there any discussion on the motion brought forward?
I'll just say that I'm happy to be able to read this motion tonight, and happy to work with the staff, and I'm glad that we could leave last week's meeting and have some in-depth discussions. We've talked a lot about it in the last year, but I think we're on the right track, in the right direction. And, you know, I'm pleased to be able to bring this forward, and I have full confidence that town staff will do, you know, what they can and come back and provide us the information that we need to try to make this work for everyone involved.
Yes, and I'd like to say too that I'm glad that we come to this conclusion, and I'd like to thank Councillor Pomeroy for making that suggestion. And for those who are out there that may be wondering, you know, we made a move from 14 meters. But just for clarification, that with the 14 meters, the way the road was structured, as you got down, further down Lyle and McLean, that there would have been some houses down there that would have had a buffer of 40, 50, and as high as 70 meters. So to be fair to everyone, the question was put forward by Councillor Pomeroy that let's put a 30 buffer contour down there, and we'll treat everybody equal. And I think that's a good compromise on behalf of all of us. The trail will have to cross the road at some place, and during our talks when we came forward with this year, that we've asked the town manager to look at engineer crossings, and I think that you know, it's a solution that we can all live with.
Mayor, I just want to add on, I was down there looking, and the trail, just for the public's benefit, it will be impacted about 9 properties down from the corner of Danny White. So in that area behind that housing there is where the road will go through that center of the trail. But I'm hoping that the town will be able to maintain that trail and put some monies towards the trail to make a better trail across that center of that road there, down the road in the future. But also I'd like to clarify too, if I remember correctly, at the public consultation last year, 30 meters did come up straight on down. So I don't think that's anything new. Anyway, that's what I recall, that 30 meters came up from the public consultation when we met with the property owners. But I'm also too, I mean, I think it's important that we point out that we started at 3 meters, we went to 14, which was gonna veer out down Court Railroad further back behind McLean. But to go 30 straight down is consistent with everybody, and yeah, so I mean, there's a compromise. So I think at the end of the day, I did speak to some of the homeowners down there, and this was discussed before. We didn't jump on it, we probably should have, and I think the town engineer, probably when we first came out with the public consultation, might have been aware that 30 meters going through, but we didn't go in that direction, but we are now, so I'm happy to see that.
Yes, Your Worship, I just wanted to add as well, and I'm glad that we're finally getting some resolution of this, and cooler heads prevailed, and you know, and we're demonstrating to the community that we can work together as an effective council. We're going to have our differences from time to time, and that's normal for any organization or group or board or body. And as for the trail, Councillor Compton Hobbs, within your department, your committee, there is budgeted money for trail studies and trail enhancement in the community, and I would, you know, hope that we can incorporate that somehow as part of the bigger picture for the community overall. And there's a lot of trails down there, and maybe we should look at others in town too and try to make them work with whatever's around in terms of development.
So I would also agree that the compromise that we made with the 30-meter buffer all the way across, but equally all the way across to the property, because that was the only way I would see that would work in compromise, with making sure everybody's treated equally. So I agree with Councillor Compton Hobbs and Pomeroy's comments about, you know, we need to work on trying to get some money, take care of the trails that will be affected, but unfortunately some trails will be affected, but at least we all came to a compromise.
And I think too, at the end of the day, that the way the 14-meter buffer was designed, that as you went down the street, and ended up giving some people 50, 60, 70 meters that with the 30-meter contour all the way down, that it do give us extra land for future development as well. So, you know, it's a win-win situation for everybody. So are there any further comments on the resolution? And for those who are listening, that we're, you know, it's you know, it's not a given, but this is something that, excuse me, we've come up with, and we're instructing our staff, in particular the town engineer, to go out there and get all the information and bring it back to us. And, you know, hopefully that this is something that we can do to please everybody.
And we could look at having a special meeting
I was
as
just
soon as
gonna
that
say.
information is
Yeah.
collected.
We can,
I
sure.
was just gonna say, maybe we can ask the town engineer what the next steps is, and I think it's to gather the information, somewhat of a timeline that it shouldn't be too long, and we then have to call a special meeting, correct?
That's correct, Councillor. First step now is to make application to Crown Lands to extend our Crown land land purchase to take in that 30 meters. And so once we get that application made to Crown Lands, we can see what the timeline is with that agency before we can actually get formal approval for that section of land.
And that's a good point, town engineer, in terms of the town applying for that land itself. And that would, as we talked about earlier, that would restrict any applications for future Crown lands in that area.
Are there any further discussion on the motion that's been put forward? Well, certainly before we take the vote, you know, we look forward to getting the information back where we can make a firm and final decision. So, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye, carried unanimous. The last item is Councillor's forum, and tonight I start with Councillor Bakey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to extend my condolences to Ruby, Kelly, and Lynn Durno and family. Al contributed a great deal as town manager over the years, and I know that from my father being a former mayor, and also as a volunteer firefighter and an active community member. Last time we met, we all wore the Montreal jersey to remember Al, so rest in peace, Al. And I also want to extend my condolences to Councillor Sean Cran, his son Joshua, his children, Linda and family, for the loss of their daughter-in-law Jody, who passed away from cancer. You are all in my thoughts and prayers during this difficult time. And I also want to mention that it's great to thank you, Waylon Williams, for doing the FaceTime video so I can participate in the presentation of Joe's Way. It was great to see the pathway being developed between the hospital and Kidsmith Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bakey. Councillor Compton-Hobbs.
I also too would like to send condolences to Ruby, Kelly and Lynn and all the grandchildren. Al was a fine man. I was up to Co-op a couple of days ago and actually was looking around because I usually banged into Al every time I went there. So certainly be missed, well-respected man, and condolences to the family. Also condolences to Sean, Linda, Josh, Brody, and Jody's family. Certainly sad times for that family, and you know, a young, vibrant woman. Jody was a correctional officer, came here to work at the Labrador Correctional Center, and met her husband, met Josh there, and they later married and had a son. So certainly thinking of Sean and Linda and the family and Josh and you know, the sons the past few days, and condolences to them. I want to wish Frank Brown all the best. He's moved on. I asked him a couple weeks ago in the meeting. He was with the town 14 years, so he's moved on to new employment, so I want to wish him well. And I'm also thinking of our colleague Joe Tremlett tonight, who's not doing so well, back in the hospital, and I'd like to mention Joe tonight, that to look over there and see, you know, his empty seat is, we're always thinking about him, and is, you know, always wish him well, and Joe's way was certainly, you know, a way to honor him, and I know he was happy. He was thrilled to be over there, and his family was equally happy too. So always thinking of Joe for sure. So in the future now, under CSR, we got some great activities, events coming up. So like I said earlier, stay tuned to some of the details that will be coming out. And I just want to say, again, on Kellan Extension, I'm happy that we were able to come to a compromise. Democracy can be heard at times. We have disagreements, we have our debates, but you know, we always come back and have to sit around the table. Just 2 nights after that meeting last week, we had a lengthy meeting Thursday evening that, you know, we're able to do that. I mean, you leave these meetings, you're not always on the same page, you disagree, you debate items. Sometimes, you know, you're a little bit passionate. Me, I become passionate. That's something that, I don't know if it's a weakness or a strength, but I'm certainly passionate with some of the community topics that come up. And like I said, we were able to leave and go back and have a reasonable, you know, professional, respectable discussion 2 nights later. So I'm happy that we're here tonight and we came to that compromise, and I think at the end of the day, everybody will be happy with what we come up with if it's something that we can do once town staff and especially the engineer comes back with the information that we're looking for.
Councillor Dyson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, just to reiterate as well, my thoughts are with Jody's family and Josh and the rest of the Cran and Benoits on the loss of Jody, of course. There's not much more you can say about Mr. Durnall. He has been such a force to be reckoned with with his quiet demeanor and no-nonsense attitude over the years. So much advice that he's given, I would say probably to everybody that was involved in the town over the years. Certainly missed and always remembered with a kind word for sure. Yes, as Jackie had alluded to, Joe's not having a very good few days, so we wish him all the best as well. We also have some sad news out of Sheshatshiu today as well, with the loss of one of their own as well. So prayers going out to that community. On a little bit of a brighter note, we have Gracie Voisey, who has will be making her way home, of course, after spending the better part of a year in the Janeway. So it'll be good to be able to see her back in Labrador. I'm sure she's looking forward to getting home. With regards to the Kellan extension, of course, you know, it's great to finally have some movement on that and you know, finally come to some consensus that we can all agree that it needs to be moved forward. But I'd like to point out, I remember first when we got elected and Mayor Hickey at the time hauled us in the back room and very bluntly, with a few words that I won't say over the airwaves today, that you're going to win some and you're going to lose some, and sometimes you're going to walk out of this building and your vote may not seem like it meant anything, but in his words, you pick your ass up and you do what you need to do because the community needs us to be their voice. So I always tend to think of John when we have our disagreements and the fact that we should all be here, of course, for the same reason. So just a little shout out to Mr. Hickey for sure. It's great. I'm getting a lot of compliments about finally having the 9 Markland dealt with. Great to see that down. I've probably gotten a dozen pictures of the empty lot down there, so it was a long time coming, but it's great that that's finally been dealt with. The last thing I'd like to point out, of course, is our young friend Aidan O'Keefe, who, even though Grace is finishing her cancer treatments and is looking forward to coming home, we have young Aidan O'Keefe, who is still in a bit of a fight for his life, and he's doing very well. I don't know if anybody has made it over to the arena, but there is a life-size poster of Aidan over there. If you get a chance to run over, maybe take a selfie with the life-size picture of Aidan and post it on their social media, Lake Melville Extreme Minor Hockey. It's all part of the community development to push the Good Deeds Cup, and like Councillor Compton Hobbs said, it's a great initiative, and if they're successful, that's $100 grand to the housing hub. So we want to try to get as many plugs in for that as possible. So hats off to the Good Deeds Cup crew, and best wishes to Aidan, who continues to fight his in the Janeway as well. We wish him all the best, but that's about it for me.
Mr. Pomeroy?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just before the start of the meeting, I received a call from Councillor Cran, and he asked me to send his regrets to council as well as to the community for not being here this evening. And as the mayor noticed and the rest of council mentioned, he's dealing with the death of his daughter-in-law. It's a difficult time for him and his family. He said that he's very humbled by the outreach of support, the tremendous support and the thoughts and prayers that he's been receiving from our community and across other parts of the province as well. And he just wanted to let the community know that he appreciates it very, very much, and that he hopes to be back soon and to get back into the swing of things, and this time, but his focus certainly has to be with his family at this time. In terms of Mr. Durnall, I first met Mr. Durnall just over 30 years ago as a young journalist walking into this chambers covering my first town council meeting. And as a journalist, depending on where you worked, councils seemed to conduct meetings a little differently. This one was a little more structured than I've worked in Clarenville. I've worked in, I've covered municipal meetings in other parts of the province, and at some meetings I actually sat at the table as a journalist with the councillor. So a little more structured here, and coming in, and I must say he was very, very helpful to a young journalist trying to find his way here in the big land, and very helpful, provided me with a lot of information. May have come at odds at times in terms of what types of information could be provided, but he was always respectful, and that relationship carried on over the years. And every time I run into him, he'd ask the same questions. Most recently it was about the wellness center. When is it going to be completed? You know, are you guys going to be able to afford the wellness center? And so he had concerns, and right up, I think, until even long after his retirement, his heart was still with the town, and to try and help people. And it was quite evident with the outpouring of grief and sympathy to the family. There was another couple of mentions there of Gracie coming home, there's also another young girl here with the Filipino community. It just turned, and she's I think 2 years old, and has been diagnosed with cancer. She has a cancerous tumor, and there's a fundraiser started online amongst some people within the community. Filipino community, and the community's jumping in to try and raise funds to help the family deal with this very difficult time. Being a new immigrant or a new Canadian coming here, you know, there's a lot of challenges regardless, and certainly this must be a huge challenge for that family and for all of us indeed, and certainly want to extend my thoughts and prayers to that family as well. Kellen Drive, I'm glad that we're finally going to move on from this issue. You know, in fairness, I guess, all we want is fairness. I don't think there's anybody here that has anything other than the best interest of this community at heart. We may, you know, may not always agree. We may agree to disagree at times, but really, I mean, we're all here for the one purpose, and that's to serve our community and do it to the best of our abilities. We're never going to please everybody, and we need to accept that and go back to what Councillor Dyson Evans said. You know, we're going to win some, we're going to lose some, but at the end of the day, we got to pick up the pieces and we got to move forward, because the town still has to proceed and develop accordingly. With that, Your Worship, that's it for me this month. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'm certainly glad too that we come to a conclusion on Cullen Drive, and you know, I'll make no bones about it. Thank you, Councillor Pomeroy, for bringing forward the suggestion that, you know, we treat everybody fair and we run a 30-meter condor along the property lines. You know, and I'm glad that we came to that conclusion. I've been around 52 years in public life, and as I think most people know by now that I got broad shoulders, and when things get angry and words are said, to me it's like water running off a duck's back. But we move on. So I'm glad that we're discussing a possible solution to Cullen Drive, and I hope that we can put it through. With regard to our Councillor Cran, one can only imagine the devastation that they're feeling, and the hurt and the pain and the anger of what they're going through. But every day he would call me, and every day I would call him as well. And I think they're well aware, as Councillor Pomeroy said, that they have the assurance that the community here is behind them. With regard to Al Durno, who I always call him as Alberto, I can remember when I was elected to council first in 1993, that I sat where Councillor Pomeroy was sitting now, Councillor Broomfield was next to me, and on the other side sat Councillor Hickey and Councillor Lawrence O'Brien. And our meetings would start at 7 o'clock in the evening, and they'd run until about 2 o'clock in the morning. And many times I see the three of them wanting to jump out and to get into the ring for fist fights. And I can remember many times when Al Durno would say, the threes put together can't throw a good punch. But you know, that's the way it was. And Al was a tremendous man in sports, a family man. And I was lucky to have him as a personal friend. I dropped by his house on a fairly regular basis. I always knocked on the door and he would curse at me. I won't say exactly what he said, but what are you doing knocking on the door? But you know, when all is said and done, as a father, as a husband, as a grandfather, as a friend, that Al stood the test of time. And you know, in a softball game, when strike three is called and the game is over, and being the hockey player and the hockey fan that he was, but we all watch Hockey Night in Canada, and at the end of the game that they picked the 3 stars. And I think to everyone who knew him, that Al Durno will always be one of our first stars. Good luck, old buddy. Rest in peace. And with that, I call for a motion to adjourn the
I'll
meeting.
make a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Councillor Compton Hobbs, seconded by Councillor Dyson Edmonds. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. The meeting is adjourned.